Right, go. Right, we're on. Right, we are live. Yes, we're back for another live stream. Let's go. Right then. Well, I've got loads of you already waiting. I didn't even realise. But yes, we should be live now. Let me know if you can see everything in the chat, and I'll sort everything out as we go along. But hello to all of you. You've got 15 of you in here already, and we are 10 seconds in, so pretty good, pretty good. And I'll have a read through your comments before we start going through everything, because we've got lots of stuff to show you today. Should be a really good one, actually. Should be a really interesting one. And we'll get straight on with things as we go along. So I'm just going to put one of the pages on, not that one, this one. Just a bit of a screenshot of something to look at while I just have a look at the chat. I'm just going to put it there, and we'll have a quick read through all the names, which I can do here. So we've got Marco. I love lives. I'm excited. Oh, we're live now. Liam Hall Hicks was the first one in, of course. And Michael Stevenson. I think there's plenty to look forward to. Let's see how it plays out, of course. It's all speculation, isn't it, at this stage. Tracy as well. Some new viewers in here again. Nice to see. Chris A, as always. Fisk. And of course, cheers to all the mods as usual. See lots of you at the bottom of the chat as well. Rachel, your yellow loving friend sneaks through. Apologies, Rachel. I've got a green mug, not a yellow one. Just a regular guy says, send it to Scandi. That's right. That's the right message. Kyle's here as well. Hello to you, Kyle. Hope you're doing well. Just evening to everyone. One who does not like yellow, of course. It's a known fact. And hello to Anne as well. Anne Smith in the chat as well. Well, we've got lots to show you today. You won't be able to see, but I've got tons of tabs at the top of my page to go through, so it should be good fun. Some of you might have seen before, but some of them you might not have. So should be an interesting one. First, wanted to bring up this photo, which was sent to me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, by Braemar and Decide Whether, but his name's Chris. Cheers for the picture. He put it on his page and he sent it to me. So yeah, it was one of those things, rare events kind of thing, like blink and you miss it sort of event. Looks really good though. Look at the red; it's like a fireball in the sky. It's pretty cool, isn't it? But yeah, I thought I'd just show that to start with. Cheers to him for sending it to me. I've also got that website up, but we'll start by start strong, and we'll have a look at the latest CFS to see what it is showing for the next, whatever looks very unstable over the next 10 days. You've got that one right. There's nothing at all happening. To be honest, is the theme. Hello to Spirit. I didn't notice that you've joined, and Lynette as well. Hello to you two as well. But yeah, we'll run through the latest CFS, see what it's showing, and then we'll get on with the main brunt of the video. So we're going to just skip to November because literally nothing's happening. And well, this is very, very underwhelming, let's just say it, with this midnight run. We've got two runs to look at, but the midnight run has higher pressure to the south and east, lower pressure to the west, and it's a very, very mild start to November. Then it turns more Atlantic driven. The polar vortex, which is the big purples to the north, it sits well up in the atmosphere over the Arctic, and that is what controls the weather systems. Of course, if we do see it weakening, if it's a weak polar vortex, we see less low pressure systems or intense lower pressure systems, such as the pinks and purples, and the deep areas of low pressure we see less commonly. But this CFS run is really going for the westerlies, the pests from the west, for quite mild conditions and very unsettled to start November. Into the final days, we get high pressure trying to ridge towards Scandinavia, but it doesn't quite happen. But you can see things do turn colder into the start of December. Higher pressure ridges out towards Greenland and Iceland, and we bring through an easterly wind after the area of low pressure clears through. So obviously nothing too ridiculous because it is a start of December. You should expect you can still get it quite cold at the end of November, start December, but it is a bit rarer. But you can see we bring in a pretty chilly easterly wind. Stays around for quite a while. Got an area of low pressure pushing into that flow from the south, trying to push in. And that could be a snow event along its boundary, but probably most likely not, let's be honest. And then we're back into mild, wet and windy southwesters for higher pressure tries to build again to our north. It really does try in this run to build, but just the Atlantic is far too strong, which I just can't see happening. I just can't see that happening this year, but you can see very, very mild southwesterlies throughout much of the run. It's a bit of a disappointment, let's be honest. It's a very disappointing run. At the very end, it does show cold, but ignore that run. Ignore that. 6Z is where it's at, okay? So, higher pressure, as you can see, even by the end of October, trying to build out to our west. Into the start of November, we get a brief cold northerly snap with a northwesterly wind taking over and the -5 line sinking through the country under high pressure. Maybe enough for a couple of wintry showers in the north. This is the chart I showed James, which is the northerly wind with higher pressure trying to ridge out to our west, but doesn't quite. And then we're back into west-southwesterly winds throughout much of the period, and it does turn quite mild. Very mild start to December as well. Southwesterlies reign supreme. This is a very, very mild run again. Not like we'd expect, but it does get interesting to start of middle part of January. Not good for my forecast, but there you go. Probably won't happen anyway. But higher pressures get sent to the north between Greenland and Scandinavia. We send it to Scandi, bringing that easterly wind, and we get some colder air masses through. But I've got to be honest, it's pretty disappointing because higher pressure then returns back to the south, lower pressure to the north, and it's very, 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 very mild. And you're thinking, it's another one of those years. Not to fear, because we've got another run. We've got one more. One more run. Will this one be the run of all runs? Well, it tries to be. We do see at the end of November higher pressure ridging out to our west. Rest of the month is a complete write-off, but you can see does dig colder air in by the 23rd of November. We've got higher pressure ridging out to our west in the Atlantic. Lower pressure slinks to our east and winds slip into a northerly direction, sinking the cold into Western Europe, maybe even into as far south as southern France, maybe into parts of Spain as well, northern Spain. Nothing too cold, but definitely will feel more seasonal. See even the cold seeping into parts of Italy and Eastern Europe as well. So quite a potent cold snap. Obviously for the UK, we're basically positioned next to the high pressure, so pretty dry. And then we go very mild again. Higher pressure is ruining things. Lower pressure to the north. Polar vortex is very strong on this run. But not to fear, because we've got the CFS model with its predictions. So I'm just going to very quickly bring these up, and then I'll have a quick read through the chat as well. We've got plenty of stuff to keep you going today. Right, let me have a look through the chat. Andrew's in the chat as well. Top moderator. Nice to see. Hello to you. Some of us having birthdays in November. James Harwood's I Love White Adventures. Oh, cheers, man. He said that he loves the channel. Thanks a lot. Paul James as well. Evening to you. Sorry, I didn't read everyone's messages. I was going through stuff. Roberto's in here as well. Doing his thing. He likes joining the streams a lot. I've also got Braemar, Belated, D-Side and Donside Weather, who does a great job. He is also present as well. He's super chatted. Thank you very much to you, Chris. I really do appreciate it. Came across my few pages very much. Cheers. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I do appreciate it. We'll move on then, and I'll keep reading the chat as we go along. Good evening at Send It South. Yeah, I will do. I'll send it south this year. I'm on the radar, so you'll get it. You'll get your code this year. So we've got the CFS. Obviously, the midnight and 6Z runs were an absolute write-off, but this is the 500 height anomalies for the months of November, December, January, February, March. Let's just pretend it's going to be cold winter and it will come off because I said so. Exactly, that's all you got to do. It's going to be mild. Mild, wet and windy. You can see though, if we skip to November, it's actually very interesting. So interesting actually that I'll put it on my Twitter page. Higher pressure, blocking to our west and northwest. We've got lower pressure over Greenland, and we are bringing down a cold northeasterly wind. And that could actually be quite cold and possibly even wintry. November there. We are bringing the colder air as far north as the Arctic, the North Pole, the Arctic Circle actually there. You can see how far the isobars go back. But then into December, well, this would be a very, very mid-east of the mid-December, typical December. Higher pressure right over the top of the UK, just to the west. And around that, winds might be in from a northeasterly direction, but it's coming from the Atlantic, so it's a pretty dry December and disappointing. I mean, this is the absolute epiphany of what you don't want for January 2026 into the new year, and it's a brilliant start. Higher pressure to our east and southeast, but we've got lower pressure in the Atlantic, bringing that westerly flow or southwesterly flow. So a very stormy month there. February has higher pressure blocking to the north, but we've got areas of low pressure through the country that could be a bit mixed. So we're going to be trying to bring in easterly winds, but that'll go into Scandinavia, and we'll get westerly winds. The pest from the west will reign supreme. And then into March, potentially signs. This could be high pressure, this white area here. Lower pressure to our east, that could bring in a northwesterly winds, but it's too late. We don't care about cold in March. We get it every year, basically. We usually get that snow event in March, where it's like central England and like Leeds and north see massive snow events, and then places in the south see about 20 seconds of snow, and then it's gone. That's just usually what happens, isn't it? That's usually what happens. Cloudy all day, but slightly cooler. It's not been too bad here, to be fair. How do you think could this winter be in Spain? Well, it all depends, basically, Ferran, on the UK. If we see possibly colder air, and we see like a northerly plunge, then we could see some cold air affecting Spain. Obviously, probably not as extreme as like the UK if there was any cold air. What you really need is higher pressure blocking towards Greenland and Iceland, and you need like a proper northerly blast. But yeah, basically, if we did see higher pressure ridging out in the Atlantic towards Greenland and lower pressure into Scandi, we could see a northerly wind. Of course, it's harder to predict further southwards how cold or intense it would be, but it would really depend on the exact time of year and the exact air mass being brought in from the north. So a lot of factors go into that. I'm not sure I've brought up there. I'm not sure what that is. The Copernicus suite, but there you go. I've got the ECM, and I'll very quickly run through this. The ECM, the 6-week anomalies. What do you think about Croatia? Yeah, I think it could be quite cold this year. I'm not going to lie. I think it could be very snowy as well. Usually is, isn't it? Would like some the real snow this year instead out of the can. Yeah. Of course you would. Old phrase for March, think going like a line and out like a line. Yeah. I think it could be quite cold in Croatia, to be fair. Personally. It usually is, but this year I think will be quite snowy. Probably will be for Fisk as well, but there you go. He gets all the snow and we get all the mild, rainy rubbish. Well, you can see this chart summarises perfectly what the weather's like at the moment. And hit that like button as well. I see a lot of you in here in the chat, but a lot of you haven't liked. Click the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We've got then, this is for the next week, so the 13th to the 20th of October. We have higher pressure sat over the top of the UK and just to the north. I'm actually going to change the colour of the pen because I hate it. We've got it just centred to the north, and we might bring in an easterly wind around that, but it's pretty high, dry and mild for the next week. Temperature anomalies for the period from the 13th to the 20th of October, there you go, you can see it now, are around to slightly above average, 0 to 1 degrees above average. And the precipitation is dry. Not much more to say. Moving on to week 2, we've got the 20th to the 27th of October. Slightly more interesting, but we're still under the area of high pressure. It's just ridged out to our west a little bit more. So it's trying to ridge out to our west, lower pressures into Scandinavia, and winds are in from a northerly direction. Probably quite cold for Norway and Sweden, but for the UK, not so much. Week 2, 500 milli heights. High pressure's still dominant, really. Over top of the country, not much change, and the temperature anomalies are still a 0 to 1 degrees above average for the second week. Well, for the 20th to the 27th of October. Precipitation, dry. Still looks pretty dry there, I must say. Oh dear. Week 3 is the 27th of October to the 3rd of November. Slightly more interesting. Lower pressure to our east, higher pressure towards Greenland. We send it to Greenland, and we're bringing down maybe a northerly wind. There is some heights strong to the south, though. They could be trying to bring in southwesterly winds. Colder in the north, milder in the south could be the scenario there. That is not good, I'll be honest. With the 500 milli heights, we've got higher pressure again out to our west. This is the same chart, but just from a different view. Lower pressures over Greenland. Lower pressures over Scandinavia and Eastern Europe, and we are trying to bring down a northerly, northwesterly wind. But southwesterlies reign supreme there, with higher pressure sat over the top of Spain and over southern France. So, pretty mild there. is a theme. Also pretty mild for Spain there with southwesterlies. Probably pretty warm. Temperature anomalies, again, similar theme, above average. Precipitation anomalies, slightly wetter than average, drier than average to the north, wetter than average to our east. So pretty interesting. Not probably just looks mild there. Week 4, the 3rd to the 10th of November. Well, we do actually see very hard to make out. That is actually high pressure towards Greenland, lower pressure over to our east. Winds might be in from a northerly direction as higher pressure to our south has retreated. It's further through Portugal and Spain than before, so it's a little bit further southwards. So we might actually bring in down a northwesterly wind there, or a northerly wind. But temperature anomalies are still above average. Wow. Precipitation anomalies, wetter than average through the UK, so maybe turning slightly more unsettled, but maybe cooler or quite cold in the north is what I'd expect with that sort of pattern. Into week 5, where things really do get uncertain, well, look away if you want cold, because higher pressure's ridging over and to the west of the country. That might try and bring in a northwesterly wind around the high, but again, it's still going to be remotely mild, primarily mild there. Higher pressure just ridging through the west of Europe, so a really disappointing spell there, and temperature anomalies support that around to slightly above average. Precipitation anomalies are no signal, with really nothing to say on that. And finally, week 6 has, pressure from the west has returned, higher pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. Pressure from the west, Atlantic-driven airflow, mild, wet and windy. You can see with the 500 millar heights, higher pressure position to our south and also up towards Greenland, to the Canadian side of Greenland, and we're bringing in a westerly wind to the north, but it's pretty barren there. Temperature anomalies, again, are above average, and precipitation anomalies are right than average in the south, wetter than average in the north, typical of a westerly flow, the pest from the west sort of regime. Pretty disappointing. Just joined in, what's it looking like next week? I'll summarise it for you in a few words. Beans on Toast, great name, I always say that. High and dry for the next week. That's all I can say. Cooler nights ahead, but the dry theme continues, yeah. Told you it would be. Another mild dross winter incoming. Can't wait to move out the UK. Oh, lucky you. Where you moving to? Make sure you've got backup heating, because grid could blow a fuse. Heard about gloom supposed to be coming. Yeah, it looks very doom and gloom like, I must say, for the next few weeks. I wanted to bring this one up, actually. This is something I never really show. This is the ECM, and it is hard to make out, but I'll explain it. These are the ensemble frequency of patterns as we go through October into November. So at the moment, we are positioned here, so this is us at the moment. So we've got Atlantic region, which is represented by the purple bars, and this is basically the probability from all the runs of each individual thing happening. So at the moment we're going into a phase of no regime because we've got higher pressure over and to the west of the UK. We do see brief blocking, but of course we're bringing in, around the high a northwesterly wind. It's nothing too ridiculous for time of year, but unfortunately with the ECM, which, by the way, I must say, and I wonder if anyone else thinks this, but I think the ECM's performed really bad this year. It's been bad. It's not been good. It's really performed terribly, in my opinion. The Met Office continue to rely on it, but I've got to be honest, I don't know why, because it's been very bad at predicting. It's been the worst performer, even behind the GFS model, which, is categorically quite bad as well. To be fair, none of the models have done very well. I'd look at the accuracy ratings, and apparently the ECM AI model has done the best, which kind of says more about the models than anything else, doesn't it, really, when the AI one comes up with the best results. And even then, it's not been brilliant. The constant flip-flopping, the changing of scenarios that they've thrown up is just ridiculous, but they'll find the feet someday, I'm sure. Anyway, enough dross. Looking at the end of October, there isn't really a signal for a significant pattern change. Possibly Atlantic region is slightly more favoured, but it's kind of 50-50. But definitely into the start of November, the trend of a positive NAO, which, if you are wondering, is higher pressure to the... done it wrong there. My bad. So a positive NAO scenario is higher pressure. Oh, I've done it again. Right, I'll do it. Right. Positive NAO is where you have lower pressure to the south and higher pressure to the north, and we bring in... No, it's the wrong way! Oh, dear me. You have higher pressure to the south and lower pressure to the north. That's the positive NAO signal, or southwesterly, depending on the exact position, usually over France, and we bring up a southwesterly wind. That's your positive NAO. A negative NAO is where you have higher pressure to the north, usually around Greenland or northern blocking, so towards Scandi. You send it to Scandi, you bring in an easterly wind, or you have it positioned towards Greenland and you bring down a northerly wind with lower pressure over Scandi normally. They're your cold signals, which is a negative NAO. And all that means is that it increases the chances of developing blocking patterns. Doesn't always work like that. The stars basically have to align for anything to come off properly, but as you can see, looking at this, the signs aren't anything ridiculous. There's not really a massive majority option. In the longer term, it kind of looks pretty even, if we're being honest. Not too definitive signals going on there. Grid dev being bad. Tends to have been doors will keep you warm. Have emergency solution in case grid goes down. Yeah. I live near the scene Croatia, so I hope it will snow. Probably would, let's be honest. Probably it will snow. Strange 2025 winter chopping and changing how it feels. Yeah. I'll say different things. Yeah, they certainly do. They are all over the place. High pressure of doom would be the worst scenario. If we've got that bloody Azores high to the south, we are screwed. It really needs to go away this year, if we've got any chances. This is these mean zonal winds. This is the polar vortex I was talking about. This is up in the stratosphere, 10 HPA. It's way up in the in the atmosphere, I guess. 10 HPA. This is a big deciding factor. Usually this is talked about in the winter for sudden stratospheric warming potential, because if that happens, then it weakens the polar vortex at its roots and can cause the areas of low pressure to become dislodged and weaken. And of course, if they weaken, you might have the increased chance of blocking potential, higher pressure ridging out to our west, which is the ideal pattern that we're after. Higher pressure to the west, lower pressure to the east, winds in from a proper northerly direction, or we send it to Scandi and we bring in a northeasterly wind. But you can see that the polar vortex is actually quite weak at the moment and will continue to be weaker than average up to around the start of November, where there's a lot of divergence. Some runs have a weaker or quite weak polar vortex, and some have quite a strong. So a very uncertain signal, especially into the second week of November, but it does look to trend to around what we'd expect, to around average with the zonal mean winds, which basically suggests that we probably will see a westerly theme, let's be honest, unless something drastic does happen. When the polar vortex splits is when you have like the cold air, they have like cold air over the North Pole. So let's just imagine this is the cold blob, which is the polar vortex at its roots, and it's like minus 80 to minus 85 degrees at its roots. Usually when you get a split, it's caused by this warming, which we'll draw over here, and imagine this is over Siberia. This is like a warming sector. Basically what happens is, because it's that strong, usually it puts pressure on the polar vortex, and eventually if it puts enough on and is warm enough, so if it's like minus, 75, minus 80 to like minus 5, it comes along, and basically because it's that much stronger, it can cause the polar vortex to become dislodged and potentially split, which basically weakens it, and then it becomes lots of different pieces. Last year, this happened, and of course it didn't really split properly. It stayed apart for about a day, and we didn't really see any effects from it. What you want is for them to go to opposite sides, if you know what I mean. You want them to go to opposite sides of the atmosphere, so it can't rejoin back together, and it's scrambling to try and join, but we get this warm sector here, which blocks the cold and the warm bit off. And if that happens, then you can really see prolonged colder spells at times. It's happened in 2009, 2010, and of course that was a notorious winter, and that is basically what you want. If you are wondering, the Hadley Central England temperature is currently sat... I've tried to explain it best I can. It is a bit complex, though, I've got to be honest. That's the best way I can put it. The Hadley Central England temperature is currently sat at 13.0. That is 2.5 degrees above average, provisional to the 10th to yesterday. Nothing much is going on with that. It is pretty above average. It's not going to change much. Due to the mild weather. Move the cup out the way. So we'll move on to the sea surface temperature anomalies next, because these are well, obviously important to some people. So we've got the North Atlantic, which is basically where we're going to focus. You can see the ENSO region here, which is, you know, going to be the La Nina. You can see the cold surface waters are in force. And I have brought the 7-day averages here as well. But you can see the cold surface waters in the Eastern Pacific and the Northern Pacific are, you know, they're quite strong now. Definitely cooled over the last few days. In the North Atlantic, though, where we are, you can see that cooler sea surface temperature anomalies have begun to weaken. That's just because we haven't seen as many low pressure systems tracking along, which does bring the temperatures down in the North Atlantic. Now, one thing I will say, and I disagree with a lot of forecasters on this, is that just because the sea surface temperatures are warm does not eliminate the risk of colder winters at all. We've seen plenty of colder winter with warm sea surface temperature anomalies. We have seen plenty. So yeah, I don't agree. Of course, probably reduces the chance to some extent, but doesn't completely reduce it. And who's to say that this won't get colder again? It still is cooler in parts, so through this central belt here. Obviously, it's warmer towards the southern side of Greenland and in the central southern Atlantic, just to the west of us and like west of Spain and Africa. But overall, you know, it's definitely the sea surface temperatures, I would say, on a whole, if you look at the whole of the world, compared to last year, are certainly much cooler than they were. They were ridiculous levels last year. If we look at the change, you can see some big changes have occurred in parts. So the North Atlantic overall hasn't really seen much change. The ENSO region, it's not really a definitive sign of whether it's cooled or increased in temperature, really, is it? In the sea surface temperatures, it's not really a definitive trend, but certainly in this region here, to the east of Western Russia, the east of Eastern Russia has definitely seen this cold trend. To the south of India and the Indian Ocean, it's kind of stayed about the same, but there has been some bigger warming blobs than colder blobs. But overall, not too much has really happened in the last week. You'd expect some trends maybe to take over as we go into the phase where the La Nina is expected to strengthen, but of course that'll come in due course. Now this is so much data going on. Smash the like button. Cheers, Rachel. Please, Ben, never say that again. My last winter because I'm off Kenya in the new year. Oh, I hope you enjoy it, John. I hope it's great fun. It's been mild, but my garden is showing signs of autumn. Yeah, there's been a lot of people saying that, such as like berries on their trees only like a month ago. So we'll see. If they still be delay on it, though, I think December might be cold and snowy still. I'm still going end of November, start December. I'm still going for it. I don't care what the models say. I've locked my prediction in. I'm locked in. I'm locked in this year. Right. Can't believe how many of you are still watching. This is probably the biggest stream that we've done in a while. So we'll see. Another winter like 21-22 happening this year. We don't want that. We want... Well, I'd rather have 2020, 2021. But there you go. Or 2018. Just give me a beast from the east, you know, in December, and we'll be happy. So we've got higher pressure. This is the current trend. Higher pressure sat over top of the UK and just to the west. It's pretty mild, you know. It's pretty mild. Lower pressure's out to our west. Not much to say. It's just higher pressure. The oranges and the reds. Higher pressure dominates through Western Europe. And the cooler air is feeding into the Nordic regions. And that is pretty much the trend. This is the CFS. I told you I had a lot of data. This is the CFS sea surface temperature anomalies for the next few months. So November, December, January is covered. And the main focus is, of course, on... Move out my way. Is on the North Atlantic. So we've got the cooler anomalies through the Atlantic, but again, nothing too definitive. The La Nina section, the ENSO La Nina, definitely strengthening, or is expected to strengthen, but apart from that, there's not too much going on. This is the something actually quite interesting. This is the CFS 500 millibar height forecast for November. So it's hard to make out, but you've got higher pressure to the west, towards Greenland and an Atlantic ridge, and we've got lower pressure over Scandinavia, and that would bring in the wind from a potential northwesterly to northerly wind. So actually quite cold there, probably. With that one, I would expect temperatures to be around to slightly below average with that one. But we do have some quite strong heights to the south, which could be a limiting factor, but that could go either way. Now, something which did interest me was this, which is the CANSIPS model. 6 years without winter and counting, United Kingdom of mild. Yeah, that is an interesting one, isn't it, that one? This is the CANSIPS model, the beige, well, the tropical tidbits CANSIPS model. And this one is actually very interesting for November. I've got to say, this is the best chart I've seen today so far. Higher pressure, ridging towards Greenland. Lower pressure, as you can see, through Scandinavia, just to the east there. And winds are actually going from a northerly direction, so actually quite cold there. Although the ridging to the west could allow milder air at times. Probably not, actually. It's just to the south of Greenland. So probably a northwesterly to northerly wind with that. Probably quite cold, but yeah. Higher pressure ridges back through Western Europe. Actually very extensive through Western Europe there. Lower pressures up to the north, and that probably brings in a southwesterly wind for December. January, mild again, very similar, higher pressure over the top of the UK. February, maybe reaching out to our west slightly, but still through the UK, really. And then March looks like a muddy month. It just looks very dry again. I was going to show you them, but I didn't want to. And this is the current polar vortex status. So the green lines, lots of data, oh my word. I didn't realise how much I've picked out. This is the polar vortex data though at the moment. Hello to you, Ben, I've just seen you in the chat. So at the moment, we are again weaker than average with the polar vortex at its roots. We'll just make that a little bit smaller. There we go. And then redo it like that. Polar vortex at its roots is weaker than average, but is expected to rise possibly to around its average state. But again, nothing too definitive there. As you can see, the GFS or the CFS ensembles are predicting a weaker than average vortex, so not too much change. But we are still seeing higher pressure dominating the weather, and that will continue to be the trend. Now, of course, as I said before, it's expected to peak in around January, middle of January. But if we get a displacement or a split event or a sudden stratospheric warming, we'd hope that it's down here, which you can't see there. We'd hope it's down there. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes on. These are the live temperatures from... let me just refresh the page. There we go. These are the live temperatures for the next week or so. Well, actually, they're actually from today, I should say. We're actually in today mode. So, overall, this is the current temperatures at the moment. So, for central Britain where I am, it's around 12 degrees. Mine says 10.3, but that depends on exact cloud cover, which is a bit cloudy. But you can see further northwards, actually milder than the south. 15 degrees being picked up at some weather stations at the moment. So pretty mild compared to the south anyway. Central northern Britain, 8 to 9 degrees for like the Lake District. And then heading further southwards towards London, 10 to 12 degrees on average. So pretty average day, nothing really too much happening there. And then the minimum temperatures expected to maybe be as low as 2 degrees in some isolated spots in Aberdeenshire, and over the mountains probably as low as freezing, but not too much going on there. Well, that's all the data I was going to run through with you all. Bit mild, yeah, it is a little bit mild, but nothing too much going on. Send it to Scandi, yeah, exactly. Send it to Scandi. Definitely. I do like them graphs, actually. They're really good to look at, I think. But yeah, there you go. That's a lot of data crammed into a video. I hope you all enjoy. And we'll have a little bit of a chat to wrap things up, hopefully. If you've got any thoughts, please let me know. Hazel's here, though. Nice to see everyone again. Yeah, it is nice to see you again, Hazel. I hope you're well watching from Yorkshire in the UK. We know you, Hazel. You'll be praying for a mild winter, I know you will. Hello to Severe Weather Alert as well. Hello to welcome to the chat. I have no idea what my temperature is. 8.9 down here in Penderyn. Is that Wales? That's just a guess. I don't know. 10 degrees here at the moment. So, It's just dry. It's just dry. That is the only thing that you can really say. It's very dry. Here you go. I'm wearing yellow, my blanket hoodie with bees on. I'm wearing my Send It hoodie. I've got my Send It cup, releasing soon. 12 degrees in the south. Oxfordshire feels like 21. Yeah, I'm not sure what the feels like temperature is here. I mean, this thing says it feels like 10.3 and it's 10.3, but I'm pretty sure you're not right. I'm pretty sure you're wrong there. But I couldn't guarantee that. But I assume it's wrong. So there you go. CFS not up to its bag of tricks today, though. We actually have one more run I can have a look at, which why not? Let's have a quick run through. There's almost 60 of you in here. Wow. Well, you'll all be excited to see this CFS run, won't you? Whoa. Is this a beast from the east setting up on the 3rd of November with this CFS run? Here you go. Higher pressure really shooting up towards Greenland there in the Atlantic, bringing up a southwesterly wind, but it's what you call warm air advection, where higher pressure blows up another area of high pressure like a balloon to our northeast. Doesn't quite. The Atlantic's too powerful, but look at that. It's a extensive northern blocking. Doesn't quite come off. Maybe a little bit cold into Scotland, but low pressure ruins everything, moves through the country and brings some very unsettled conditions there instead. But higher pressure does ridge out to our west in the Atlantic and brings in a cold northeasterly wind. Actually quite cold there, maybe even a few wintry showers in the south and the east potentially, before higher pressure ridges back to the south. Okay, this one's a bit more interesting than the other ones. High pressure ridges to the south for a time before we do see it ridge out briefly to our west in the Atlantic and bring down a cold northerly wind. I almost forgot my words there. Does again topple back through the country before we see another brief northwesterly to northerly wind. And into the start of December, continue to see these ridges building out to our west. Try to build out to our west, but don't quite head northwards. Then we're back into a westerly flow, and Christmas Day looks very mild there, winds in from the southeast. Nice, yes, probably mildest Christmas Day on record. But then into the start of January, the pass from the west continues, with higher pressure trying to ridge out to our west at times, with winds in from a northeasterly direction, and colder air seeping southwards at times, but overall pretty mild. We've got trough there, diving southwards with a ridge out to our west. That's going to bring much cold into Western Europe. You can see that Scandinavia's in the freezer throughout much of this period, as you'd expect, because the UK is seeing all the mild conditions. But must say the Atlantic looks very powerful in this run, and also the higher pressure to the south is not really retreating as well, which has been a very big trend in these latest CFS runs. It's a little bit rubbish, let's just say. This higher pressure, the Azores high to the south, has really been strengthened on these latest runs. And if that comes off, basically the winters are right off. So it's all down. A lot of the time it is down to the Azores high to the south, which has always existed and has brought in some very mild winters, exceptionally mild winters, even before the modern era. It's basically the deal breaker of a lot of winters as well, usually. So there you go. I'm dreaming of a green Christmas. Yeah, let's just ignore the mild Christmas run. My fingers will be crossed. I hope it will snow. It probably will. Let's be honest, it probably will snow. My name doesn't go well with the name of this channel. Whoa, that's that. Wow, I like your name though. It's a good name. Yeah. Wow. There you go. Right, we'll have a look at the latest for a laugh. You know what I mean? We'll have a look at the latest data for a laugh. What a name. We'll have a look at the latest data though for a laugh. The GFS being its rubbish self. Higher pressure on the top of the UK. What? Why is it so slow? The higher pressure on the top of the UK tries to ridge out to our west, but an area of low pressure pushes through by around day 7, day 8 and turns it more unsettled. And we're into a typical westerly flow before higher pressure ridges back to our south and brings in a southwesterly wind. Lower pressures beginning to enter in from the northwest. It's pretty mild. It's pretty wet at times at the end, but really not much change. Unfortunately, the GEM runs back, so we have to show you this really quick, which... but higher pressure again, ridging through the country. But never mind, it's not even processed properly, but there you go. Ignore the first 5 days, but higher pressure ridges through the UK by Friday and Saturday. next week for an area of low pressure enters in from off the Atlantic, affecting particularly north and western the UK, north and west, but through many parts of Eastern Europe looks pretty mild for before unsettled conditions look to return again by day 10 from the southwest, turning things mild. And then finally the ECM, higher pressure over top of the UK, ridges out to our west briefly before lower pressure pushes through by the 18th of October. That actually looks a little bit better. We've got higher pressure more strongly built out in the Atlantic. Lower pressure is going to push through there. A bit earlier than the other runs by the 18th, but possibly that could actually bring back a northwesterly wind at the end, but we'll have to wait and see how that processes out. Then we've got the AI model, which is in a bit of a no man's land. It has areas of low pressure pushing in from off the Atlantic, clearing to our northeast, and then turning unsettled into the final days of October. So there you go. Ready to be born. Warm Christmas, yep. North can have the warm and the south can have the cold. That's exactly what's going to happen. Hope we have some snow this year. I think everyone does, Wayne, besides the few that, it's fair enough that people don't want the snow, of course. There's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that don't like the extremely hot weather like me. So it's just kind of a balanced ground, isn't it? Looks interesting. It looks interesting until ex-tropical storms, yeah. I would say if it snows, didn't snow in 4 years, never see. It might be the year. Well, I think I've shown you everything there. I know it's been a bit of a shorter live stream than last time, but there you go. That's just how it plays out sometimes. But hope you've enjoyed all the data I've showed you. And we're back with even better live streams in the future. Thank you all very much for watching. Cheers to all the mods, of course, for being here as well. Checking on the chats. Really do appreciate it. And Red Christmas. Yeah, Santa. You just see Santa in the sky, yeah. James will still get snow, don't worry. He always gets snow. It don't matter what year it is. It could be that. I'll certainly remember your name, pal. But yeah. We'll see. Thank you very much for watching today's stream. Still 50 of you in here, that's crazy. Hit that like button so that more people can see it on the way out. And as always, you were watching Send It's Weather. See you all later, and cheers for a great stream as always. Bye bye.